Hi, I'm Callum from Tyne Valley Motorhomes, and this is a handover video of the Chausson Titanium Ultimate 777. So starting on the driver's side, the first point you get to is your chemical toilet. So that opens with the main habitation key, and then you squeeze the lock in, drop the door, and expose the cassette. To get the cassette out, place your hand underneath, lift the orange handle up and slide the cassette free of the vehicle. You can either carry it at the front, or it's got some wheels and you can drag it to the waste disposal point, your Elson point, which is normally beside your toilet block on site. And to empty, remove the grey cap, pop that to one side, start to pour the contents, but as you start to pour the liquid out of the cassette, press the button in. This allows a bit of air and stops it glugging. Once poured out, pop some water in, pop the cap back on, give it a rinse, tip out again before going in with a cap full of chemical. The cap capacity is 120 ml. This can either be green toilet chemical or blue, depending on the site. Green is more environmentally friendly, so some sites may want you to use the green. Cap full into here, and then it's good to go back into the motorhome, and then you can use your toilet. Also fitted, you do have an external gas point. So this runs on the main bottle on board the vehicle, so you don't have to carry a spare if you want to use your Cadillac or external barbecue. Lift the flap, take the rubber stopper off the bottom, place your quick release connection into here, which will be connected to some gas rubber hose with a Jubilee clip and secured onto the Cadillac on the other end, before turning the tap on here to allow the gas to come through and be used from the main bottle on board. Make sure you turn it off before disconnecting your quick release connection once finished using this point. Just behind the back driver's wheel, you do have your wastewater disposal point. So there's a lever here, you pull it forward and you can open the waste and it drains out in the centre of the vehicle from the tank. This is your wastewater, so this is any water that you've used, so dishes water, hand basin, shower, cups of tea, anything that you've drained down via a plug hole. On the way out of your site, if you're not on a super pitch where you can connect to waste, you drive over the grid, dump your water, and then continue on your journey, either onward journey or homeward journey. What you want to do is you want to always make sure it's always drained off, because if it's not, you're going to then potentially be carrying another 70 kilograms of wastewater around with you, which is just going to use more weight in the payload and use more fuel for the engine as you're carrying more weight on board. So drop this, because once it's dirty there's nothing you can do with it, and then you can drive being a bit lighter without carrying the dirty water. And ensure that in this winter it's fully drained off so this water can't freeze. This is the gas locker. So in here I've got my test bottle on at the moment, which is a 3.9 propane bottle. The motorhome is set up to run off propane, but you can fit a 6 kilogram colour bottle in here, or if you wanted to go down the route of a refillable system, you can fit a 11 kilogram in here. But as Cala don't do an 11 kilogram, they only do a 6 or a 13. 13 doesn't fit and 6 does. So you can fit a 6 kilogram propane in here. There's two straps, top and bottom. Obviously my bottle's not big enough, so I can only strap it in with the bottle, the bottom strap on the bottle, but you can use both on the 6. To connect the pigtail, it's left to tighten, right to loosen, opposite ways with it being gas, and you want to get a gas spanner or adjustable wrench and nip it up before turning the cylinder on at the top. 1 or 2 turns is just enough. And then before you leave your site, make sure that you turn it off. So you turn your cylinder off at the top. Make sure it's strapped in so it's nice and safe and secure for you and other road users, so there's going to be no danger of the gas being left on or insecure. And then, like I say, when you arrive on your site, you would just turn it back on from the top of the bottle. So to operate your 12 volt control panel, once you come into the vehicle, you'll want to turn your power on. So you need to press this green button here, and that gives you your 12 volt master switch. So that puts a 12 volt on from the leisure battery. However, if you hooked up, you'll get this little green light here, which indicates that the vehicle is receiving mains 230 volt. So if you plug the household item in, it'll work. However, if you're wild camping and you're not hooked up, your mains 3-pin sockets inside the vehicle won't work. Next, you want to turn on the lights, which is this button here. This is your master switch for the lights, then they all are individually switched around the van. If you want to use a tap, toilet, or shower, you're going to have to turn the water pump on, because otherwise you're not going to get a pressurised flow of water to the taps. And this is this one here, so a picture of the tap. It'll kick in, it'll pressurise, and then it will cut out, and then it'll react to when the tap's open and pressurise the water through the tap, and then turn itself back off. But you don't need to keep turning this on and off, just make sure that it is turned on when you get to your site, making sure that you've got sufficient water in the tank first, of course, and then you can just use the water facilities on board and you'll get a pressurised flow. However, if you haven't got any water on board, don't turn this on because you'll burn the pump out. Next one's your awning light, which is the light on the outside of the van. So if you want to sit underneath the awning and it's getting a bit dark or dusk, you can put the awning light on. The 4 buttons here, or symbols should I say, correspond with the 4 buttons on the bottom. So you have the trailer battery, which is your leisure battery reading. This will always read around 80 to 90%. At the moment it's hooked up, so it's given a false reading of 100%. Take the hook out to get a true reflection of the leisure battery. This one is of the van battery, so that's the Ford engine battery. In this picture of the truck, you've got your fresh water. So we've got around 20 to 30 litres of fresh water on board there at the moment. That is showing orange as well, which means that it's a concern because it's low. So it's drawing your attention to the panel that it's orange. It now needs to be filled back up with water because you're getting low on fresh water. And then this one here dims the panel, so should it be too bright or too dim to see, you can bring it up or bring it down by just pressing and holding. But on a night you might want to dim it down for the people at the front of the van. As this is fitted with a solar panel, the solar panel only works when the master switch is turned on. So if you're leaving the van and you want the solar panel to charge the leisure battery, which will only do when the vehicle's not hooked up. When hooked up, the mains 230 volt takes priority, because it brings in a lot more than a solar panel can provide. You need to make sure that you leave this switch on. Turning this off, the charge from the solar panel, which is 100 watt, won't come into the vehicle. So if you are storing it on the driveway or in the storage yard, and you want to make sure in the summer that your batteries are getting topped up, you need to leave that switch turned on, which is your green master switch. To operate your Webasto diesel heater, first of all, you need to make sure that you've got sufficient diesel in the diesel tank, as it's drawn off the main engine tank. So it needs to be a quarter of a tank or more, but I always like to say half a tank or more, because with a quarter, you don't want to be bang on a quarter when you're pulling onto your site, because it takes a thimble size every 2 hours, and if you're parked up for a week at the same site, you're going to get a problem where it's going to get too low on diesel. So if you're at a half, it's better, because it's not going to use a half in a week on a site. And it always gives you enough to get off the site with 100 mile left in the main engine tank to then get off to a petrol station and fill back up. So you're never going to get a empty diesel tank off the diesel heater, because there are 2 different intake heights. To start the heater off, you press the quick start button, which is this button here. So press it once, it goes from white to green. That indicates that it's on. You can then use the dial to choose the temperature, and once happy, press enter. Making sure that the temperature is above the outside air temperature, of course, so it's no good having it on 20 degrees heat if it's 20 degrees outside, because inside the van's going to be more than that. It's going to be more like 25 to 26 degrees inside the van, so it isn't going to work. So it always has to be above the outside air temperature. Pressing again, you can choose the performance of the heater. So you've got one wavy line, which is eco, you've got normal, and you've got performance. So you can change. Normally it's just set up to normal. You can use a timer, so you can time it if you go to the left. So you can time it for 2 hours, or you can just leave it on continuously, which is the figure of 8. Or if you press this button and you get the menu, you can put timers on. You can start the heater on, but again, just press the quick start button, or you can start the ventilation, and the ventilation goes blue, and you've got 4 stages of ventilation. Stage 3 there, we'll put it on max, and it goes blue, and what that does is it just redirects the air that's within the van, so it recirculates it. It's the same on your carb where you just recirculate the air within the van, so if it's warm enough you can just recirculate it if you want, but mainly you would just press it once for green, select the temperature as it's a heater, and let it start to heat the motorhome, and this is your diesel heater. On the back of the 777 you do have a large garage space. So as standard it comes with the light, so you've got light in the garage, it's heated via the diesel heater, it's got 12 volt, it's got 230 volt, but this cycle carrier isn't standard, this is an option for this particular customer, so don't think it comes with it, it doesn't, this is an option that we fitted here at the dealership. So you just press this button and you can slide it out, clip your bikes on either side, and then you're able to push it back in, but you can adjust these so that they can move along the rail and your wheels sit on there depending on how big your bike is. You can push them on so you can put your wheels on there, and then you just push it back in. Once them infill cushions are moved, you'll be able to push it back in a bit further, and it'll clip back in. D-rings in the floor for tying things down. It does come with some loose fit carpets, 25 metre infill, 25 metre hooker bleed, your infill cushions, and your external silver blind. When using the water heater on gas, this cover needs to come off because it blocks the flue for the gas vent. So hand on the top, thumb in the middle, lift it off. The best place to put this is either in the garage or the passenger door pocket, and then when the passenger gets in and notices it's off and it's in the door pocket, you can just pop it back on. But this needs to come off to allow the fumes out for the gas water heater. So if it's on electric, you're fine. If you're using electric and gas together, as you're using gas, it needs to come off. There is a red light on the water heater dial on gas, and when that illuminates, it illuminates for 3 reasons. 1, the cover's been left on. 2, your gas has run out. Or 3, your gas isn't turned on. So what you need to do is, if you've left the cover on, turn it off, come out. If you've got a build-up of gas, just blow into here and eliminate the build-up of gas, and then go back into the vehicle and switch it back on, and it should light on gas. But make sure you pop it back on before you travel, so behind there doesn't get messy with road grime. This is a external cold water fed shower, so you've got a right fitment onto here. It comes with a van. It's a length of hose with a trigger gun on the other end. So like I was saying, right fitment onto there, trigger gun on the other end. You've got to have the pump on the main control panel to get a pressurised flow of water out of here, otherwise you won't get anything from this point. And that's with anything water related on the motorhome. The water pump needs to be turned on to pressurise the system. So this locker here is known as your Technibox locker. So to one side, the right hand side, you've got your fresh water intake. So carry yourself a hose pipe with some hose pipe fittings, as it's mainly just a brass tap provided by the site. Hose into here, fill it until it overflows, or you can look on your control panel and see how much water you do have on board. If you had a full tank of water and you're now wanting to travel, to make you lighter on weight, as you don't really need to drive around with 100 litres of water. That's 100 kilograms into the payload, unless you're wild camping. If you lift this grey lever up here, with the pump on the control panel, it will pump the water out underneath the van until 20 litres is left. So that gives you more than enough to stop, use the toilet, have a cup of tea on your long journey, or a few cups of tea on your long journey if you're doing a longer trip, and use the toilet when you're travelling, so you don't have to stop at service stations. But to drain off the rest of that 20 litres or 100% of the water, if you were winterising and you don't want to use the travel drain, underneath the van there is a drain off point. So if you underneath the van, just here, you've got a white valve if you open that up there, you can drain off your fresh water supply. So you can do that if you've taken on a source of contaminated water, you're not using the van for a period of time, or you're winterising to avoid the water from freezing. On the other side of your Technibox locker, you've got your trips. So if you think you're not receiving power, press the test button. If the test button trips the van, you've got power. If it doesn't, you're not receiving power. Or if you think you've tripped the van, try here before you try your main site, but it's mainly always the site that you've tripped. And then this side you do have your fuses on 12 volt, so carry some spare blade fuses. You can get these off Amazon, eBay for less than £10. Pop them in the van, and then if something isn't working, all you need to do is pull the fuse out, check the centre of the fuse. As you can see there, that's intact because it's not broken. If it was broken, you would just replenish it with the same amperage of fuse, and hopefully you can solve the issue. To hook the vehicle up, whether you're charging it at home prior to going away or over the winter to avoid your batteries from going flat, or if you're on a site, it's the same way of hooking the vehicle up. So you've got your mains hookup point on the vehicle, you get your hookup lead, expose the connection, connect the vehicle first, then the site, and do it in reverse order when unhooking. And when unhooking, you just press the blue little clip down in the corner just so you can safely remove the connection. But that would be the same as if you were hooking the house up, hooking the van up to the house. You'd always hook the vehicle first, then make the cable live. Never walk around with a live lead. At the passenger door, you'll find your diesel filler. So it's a capless system. So when you push the diesel nozzle in, it opens the anti-siphon device further down and allows you to fill with diesel fuel. And underneath, because it's a new styled Euro 6 diesel engine, it does take AdBlue, and it's 22 litres on a transit, and it'll tow 5,500 miles on a full tank of AdBlue. Once you've done about 4,000 miles and you've got 1,500 miles left to go, you'll normally get a warning to say that the AdBlue level is low and you've got so many miles until zero restart. If you just fill it up from the pump, so if you go to your bigger service stations that accommodate wagons and trucks, you'll get AdBlue on the pump. You'll be able to buy it, about £1.20 a litre. Pop it in here, as if you buy it in the drums. We've seen the drums for £30 a drum, and this will take 2 of them. That's £60, whereas you can buy it for £1.20 a litre, and it'll only really take about 15 litres maximum from when the light comes on. To open the bonnet on the Ford, using the key, pop it in the front, just above the Chausson Ford badge. Turn it to the left, pops the bonnet. Turn it to the right to release the bonnet. And in here you've got your various fluids. So you've got your screen wash, which is the main one you're going to need, which is this one here. Followed by the oil filler and the brake fluid. The oil dipstick's located just down here, so you can check the level of oil in your engine at any one time. The coolant is beside the passenger headlight. So that's this one here. And then if you ever need to jump start the vehicle, your positive's on there, and then your earth, which is your black clip, goes on the side here. Just earth it out on the engine hoist. And on the front you've got a sticker. So this is your second stage conversion plate. So it was a Ford Transit chassis cab, it's now a motorhome, so that's why it says Trigano VDL, which is Trigano Services, who own Chausson. Gives you a chassis number. It also gives you a build number on the bottom. Gross vehicle weight 3.5 tonne, train weight of 3.5, front and back axle. This motorhome can tow, but it can't tow at present. So it can automatic transmission on the Fords can tow 750 kilograms, but the certificate of conformity at the moment states that it can't tow, because Chausson don't give you a towing weight unless you buy a tow bar through them. So you'd have to come back to a Chausson dealer, get the tow bar fitted, change the certificate of conformity, which means then you will get a new logbook, which gives you a new train weight, and it also gives you a new sticker. So if you are stopped by the police and they looked at this plate, you then have a towing weight. So in the kitchen you do have one electric hot plate, which is this one here, which the light comes on, which will work when you're on mains 230 volt hookup. If you're not, you'll have to use your gas, and you've got 2 gas. Make sure when you've had them on, either the gas or the electric, they're all cool enough before you put the glass lid down, because the glass may shatter if it's too hot. Underneath you'll find your grill. And under the grill you do have the oven. To operate your Thetford fridge, to turn the fridge on, press here. And then the source selector is this one here, the temperature's here. So starting off with the source selector, A stands for automatic energy selection. So it will always pick out mains 230 volt where it's available. However, if mains 230 volt isn't available, it'll find gas and it'll self-ignite on gas. And then if you start the vehicle's engine, it will swatch over to mains to the battery, which isn't off the leisure battery, it's off the vehicle's alternator, so it's the vehicle battery. And this only works when driving, so the vehicle has to be running. It has to be pre-chilled beforehand, so it's great if you're moving from one site to another and you've already got your shopping in the fridge, or if you have hooked the vehicle up a few days before you're going away, put your fridge on, put your shopping in the night before, then set off the following morning. The shopping should be nice and fresh and chilled, so on automatic it'll switch over by itself. But on the automatic setting, it never goes from the vehicle battery to gas straight away. It waits 20 minutes. This is a safety feature in case you forgot to isolate your gas supply and you're filling with diesel. You don't want the gas fridge to be sparking where there's naked fumes of petrol, so it doesn't for 20 minutes. So what you need to do if you're wild camping and you want to override this 20-minute function is press the square button here, remove the A, that is mains 230 volt hookup on manual mode, that is the battery, code 6 loss of 12 volt, flashing red because the engine's not started, or gas, 5 being the coldest temperature, and you can turn it down, so when pre-chilling and nothing in, have it on 5, gets the fridge down to temperature as quick as it can possibly be. And then once you put your shopping in, turn it down to 3 or 4, as sometimes 5 can form ice in the fridge and cause the shopping to freeze. When you're not using it, it's always best that you turn it off. Give it a wipe out with some antibacterial sprays just to avoid any smells and anything that you may have spilled or been sat in the fridge, just to clean it. And then put the blue clip on the hinge here in the centre and rest the door upon it. If you rest the door upon it and clip it in, the door's still loose, but it means that the air can circulate in and out the fridge without causing smells if it was left for any length of time. There's a sticker here on the fridge which gives you a data plate for your fridge, so if you ever need any parts, door pockets, shelves, burner, gas burners, anything like that for the fridge, that's the numbers you need to provide us or any motorhome and caravan dealer to get your parts. So on the front of the 777, as this one has been opted without the drop down bed, if you've got a drop down bed then you'll not have this function to be able to make the bed out of the table. But unfortunately, because this is a 4-berth and it doesn't have the drop down bed, they give you infill cushions to make the front bed. All you need to do is make sure that the table folds out this way. But you want to press the red lever, push down on the table until it clicks, push it as far over as you can before opening this section, and then all you need to do is push it a little further this way, so there's a little stopper there, it rests on there. Put your infill cushions on, which we'll do now, and we'll come back to you showing you how the bed makes up at the front. So now you place your infill cushions in, so your large one, which is hard backed, goes to the front, and then your cutaway cushion goes here, rests upon the table, and you have a front bed made out of the table. So these two are your hot water controls. You've got a Truma boiler, which is gas, and a Truma boiler EL, which is electric. So starting off with the gas, the cover needs to be removed, otherwise you'll get a red light appear if the cover's on, if the gas has run out or the gas isn't turned on. So the centre's off, you've got, in the up position, 50 degrees of heating your 10 litres of water at any one time. On the bottom, you've got the bigger output of 70 70 degrees of heating your hot water at any one time. And then you would use that if you're wild camping and you didn't have electric. However, if you're on a site, don't bother wasting your gas, use your electric, which is the bottom dial. So you've got off in the middle, you've got the lower output of 750 watts, which is 1 kilowatt of power. And you've got 2 kilowatts at the bottom, which is 1850 watts of mains power. By all means, you can use the gas and electric together, which will reduce the time it takes to heat the water. However, I wouldn't be wasting your gas when you don't need to. If you're on a site and you've paid your site fees, use the electric. You'll get 10 litres out the boiler on hot water, but obviously the hot water's between 70 and 60 degrees. You'll not be able to stand under that having a shower. So if you mix the water, you should be able to get between 17 and 20 litres out of the boiler mixed for a shower. So on the back of this model, you do have your 2 single beds, but you can make it into a double. So we'll show you how to make it into a double. So what you need to do is you need to lift your 2 mattresses up, lift this section up, it slides down, and the feet clip into here. Once the feet are clipped in, you've got an infill cushion which goes in here and forms a double bed across the width of the motorhome. However, you've got to use the front as a step, so there's a little step there to get in and out, to climb into the bed. Whereas with the singles, you've got the 2 built-in steps underneath. At the front of both of the 2 single beds, you do have the wardrobes. So you've got wardrobes either side with shoe hanging racks as well on the doors. In the bottom of the first step between the 2 beds, if you lift it up, you can find your 3 gas isolation valves. So you've got your hot water system, your cooker and your fridge. Any problems with gas, turn the bottle off to be safe. These are mainly for when the vehicle is annually habitation serviced. However, you can isolate each individual appliance by turning them so that they go from landscape to portrait. So all you need to do is turn them so they're in the... That's closed. This is open. Just make sure you don't knock them when loading the van, as if you have a problem with gas and you can't get the gas through, this would be the first point that I would come to make sure I haven't turned off the gas isolation valve. So on this model, one side you've got the shower. So you want to ensure that when travelling, your shower screens are closed and put together in the door here. When winterising, you want to ensure that you remove the shower head from the shower hose. Lie the hose down, as you don't want any water to sit in here and potentially freeze with the mixer tap open. You've got a hanging rail for wet towels, but it's also great if you've been caught in the rain. You can put a hanger on there, hang your wet coat, and then if it drips and there's a lot of water comes off your coat, you're not going to be bothered because it's going into the shower anyway. So it's not going to cause any leak or damage to the van. At the bottom you've got the duct board, so that can be removed, but that's great for bearing weight in the shower tray as it spreads it evenly across the tray, and it's also good for water drainage. That can be lifted out to clean the shower tray and surround. Make sure that you don't use any bleaches or harsh scourers. Soapy water and a microfiber cloth is good enough to clean your toilet and all your sink and shower out with, because they're just plastic. You do have a fly screen and a blackout blind on the blind. Be careful with these as they're on a spring, so it's best that you help them along. And you can also open the skylight. So first of all you want to unlock the lid, and then you want to wind it open, and you get a bit of ventilation. However, before you travel, you want to make sure it's shut and that the lid's locked, so there's no flex in the skylight lid. To use the toilet, press the blue button at the back, which gives you a freshwater flush, and then open the blade, which is on the front of the pedestal of the toilet. You've got a grey lever, slide that to the right, use the toilet, flush it after use, and then close. If you've got any pink liquid, this motorhome doesn't take pink liquid because the flush is fed off the main freshwater tank. So it doesn't have a separate header tank like some other motorhomes and most caravans. However, what you can do is put so much pink in a spray bottle, dilute it with water, spray the bowl, flush, and then close the blade. It'll do the same job. The cassette will indicate with the red light on the back here when the cassette is full and requires to be emptied, rinsed out and replenished with chemical. In the washroom you do have loads of toiletry space. Your light switches are underneath the bench here, just here. So you've got one for the shower and the inner one is for the toilet. This just shows that your water pump is working and that is up to temperature. So that water is red hot there. As you can see, it's steamy. So your hot water is working as it should. So this is an option that we fitted as well. It's an Avtech smart television. So it's a 12 volt TV, and the Avtechs are the best in the motorhome and caravan leisure industry market. So make sure it's turned on. There's a button here at the end which you want to put on first. Then it puts it on to standby, and then you need to turn it on. But your 12 volt control panel needs to be turned on, and on a Chausson, because it's 12 volt and it's wired to here, it is actually wired to the light circuit, so you need to make sure that the light button on your main 12 volt control panel is turned on. You don't have to have the lights on if you don't want it during the day, but just make sure that's on the panel just to get power to the TV. Turn the TV on. Every time you move locations you will have to retune the telly, and on the TV remote you've got an orange button which says AQT. If you press and hold that and do a rescan, it'll get to about 35–40% very quickly, and you might think, oh, I'm not getting any channels because it's going too quick. It's not. It gets so far and then it picks up the channels, and it picks up them very well. So that is how you operate your Avtech's TV. This is a smart television as well, so in the settings you can connect it to a Wi-Fi network, and you can use likes of Netflix, Amazon Prime, YouTube, Disney Plus, Freeview Play, and they're all on here. But it does need to be connected to a hotspot off your phone or the site's network for this to work. So as this motorhome is fitted with a smart lounge, it contains 2 travelling seats underneath the lounge. When you want to assemble the seat, you need to remove the cushions. The 2 slimmer ones you put at the back as you don't need these, and these 2 you would keep. There's a black lever on the front. Slide that back. At the front behind the driver's seat you get your 2 headrests. So you've got one for the passenger seat, rear travelling, and one for here. So this would just clip into the top. Isofix if you're putting children in there for car seats. This base cushion goes on. Your seat belt's hidden under here. Backrest on. And there you have one full-size travelling seat.